We're good to go. Welcome, everyone, to the FFL National Weekly Call. I just ate some damn Halloween candy. Sorry about that. And I was like killing these M&Ms and the Snickers out there. All right, so we do this every single Monday at 12 o'clock. We are going to go over, and Dante, does it sound bad in there? Because it sounds bad in my ear. It sounds like it sounds good. Okay. Well, we're going to go through the weekly submit, and then we're going to go through our issue paid numbers, and then we're going to talk to Miss Kristin Salais Romero. If you guys don't know who she is, if you're brand new and don't know who she is, I tell you what, she writes a lot of business. She's already at $800,000, right, for the year? $750,000, and she's also building a team. I see a lot of activity going on, so everyone definitely wants to hear from her. So we're going to make this real quick. That way we can bring her on because I think she has a lot of valuable information to share with everyone in the group. So let's go ahead and start out with our October Week 4 submit. We have, we'll start out with the top 20 people. We have Magdalene submitted 7450, Said Baz 7560, Eugene Marshall 7991, Josh Chris 8350, Bobby, great job Bobby, 8806, Kali 8,969. We have Edwin Delgado 9199, Andre Brooks 9246, Nick Leonard's 9493, Julian Dickinson, great job Julian. He does our FFL Fast Track 2.0, and he does a phenomenal job. So great job Julian. Not only does he train everyone on a weekly basis, he submitted $10,000 for the week. Ashley Skinner $10,001. Scott Simmons, $10,087. Ian Pelletier, $10,146. Jamal Norcom, $10,250. Stephen Johnson, great job. Steve submitted $10,515. Joshua Forrest, $12,107. Gary Nesselrode, $12,178. Leon Harrison, $12,315. That was a new writer for the week. And then Ryan Urbanski, great job, Ryan, $16,306. Kristin, I know you've helped Ryan out a lot recently, and look at that, $16,306. Good week, right?
Yep.
Submit. And then Kristin Salais in first place submitted a total of $20,185. Dante, can she get a clap for that for $20,000 in a week? Yeah. Give a thumbs up. Look, they're looking at you. Awesome, Kristin. All right, let's go through our team submit for the week. We'll go through our top 5 agencies. We have Pursuit of Happiness, 48,648. Honor and Valor, 74,917. FFL Dream Team, 95,906. Entourage, 118,858. FFL Fury submitted a total of 136,264. FFL National, $445,098, and somehow Allegiance was missed, and I know we submitted a total of $256,000 for the week. Let's go through our issue paid numbers. This is October, week 3 issue paid. We had a total of 112 agents that submitted business last week. So let's go through week 3, October IP. Our top 20, we have Steve Johnson, 12,817. William Rando, 12,888. Ruben Rodriguez, 13,414. Amaka Anderson, 13,709. Rachel Canning, 14,685. Eugene Marshall, 14,862. Thaddeus, 14,901. Jamal Norcom, 15,518. Yola, 15,549. Nick Leonard, $16,005. Brad Murphy, 16,145. Richard Moore, 16,875. Richard Coombs, Mike Coombs, 17,544. Austin Smith, 17,975. Julian Dickinson, 18,864. Kristin Salais Romero, 19,585. Gary Nesselrode, 21,321. Ronald McCormick, 22,685. Scotty Simmons, 29,871. And Ryan Urbanski in first place for all of FFL National. Yeah, Ryan, great job. $37,470. Great job, Ryan. We had a total of 251 agents that have issued business this so far this month. Let's go through our top teams. We have in last spot Austin Smith, 51,589. William Crandell, 53,305. Both of these two should be very close to getting a team name, so they're definitely on their way. We have Team Trust, 65,849. FFL Peak Finance, 98,486. Unity, 102,187. Blitz, 121,119. Honor and Valor, 146,200. Pursuit of Happiness, 150,923. Dream Team 2, 27,32. Entourage at 328,447. We have Fury at 350,822. Allegiance at 608,784. And total for FFL National, $1,098,857. And again, that was 251 agents that wrote business for the week. So today we're lucky enough to have Kristin in the office today. We're going to go through. I think we have so many new people joining the agency. I think it's important that we go through Kristin's in-home. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. She closes a lot of business. Like she said, she's over 750,000. You said for the year. So I'm sure everyone would like to know how to write $1 million for the year, because you're definitely on pace to do that.
I hope so.
And she's killing it. And then on top of it, she is starting to build an agency. So we're going to just go through how she's writing so much business. We'll dissect and break down her in-home, and then we'll talk a little bit about team building at the end. So,
perfect. Yep.
Kristin, go ahead. If you can just kind of tell everyone who you are. Some people on here may not know you, and then let's go through your in-home presentation.
So, like Mike said, I'm Kristin Salais. I've been with FFL since 2014, of May 2014, so I've been here for a little while. I think the biggest thing with being a new agent is understanding that, just like in any profession, it takes time to get good at your craft. So you have to have patience. I think it's really hard, like when you start seeing everybody, putting up such big numbers and things like that, right away you automatically think, oh my gosh, you might have doubt, or you might second guess yourself if you can be good at this. I would just like to reiterate, I was a hairdresser. I did not have any sales experience at all, and I never focused on anyone else's race. I still don't do it now. I just stay in my own lane. I stay true to my own values, what's important to me. And I feel like it's really, really important that you're going to just keep figuring out for yourself what works for you, what doesn't work for you, stay plugged into the system, and learn from everybody and take bits and pieces of what you like and what you don't like, don't use, and get good at what you do. Yep.
That's great advice. We have too many people, they look at everything else that's going on and compare themselves. And I think once you start doing that, then it drags you down. So that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and there's enough growth, and everybody can be happy for everybody. I think that gets lost sometimes. Like when you're so focused, everybody gets excited about making money, and you want to be really good at this really quickly. I think if you just keep things simple, keep just for your own individual self, know what you bring to the table, what your strengths are, and build upon that, and then help with your weaknesses. Focus wherever you're weak, get in front of people that have those weaknesses as their strengths, and then get connected with those people. We're all here to help everybody. So I think that's, it's really powerful when you do that. I know for my team, that's kind of what we do. We focus all together on what we each bring to the table that we're good at. And everybody has their own role what they lead on. For example, Leslie is amazing at the phones. So she's always on the live dials every week. People look up to her for that. And she helps everybody get plugged into that. So, everybody has different strengths. Right? So that's kind of how we...
Awesome. Well, let's talk about when you walk into a home. Everyone on here wants to learn how to issue $1 million a year. Let's break it down real easy so everyone understands that, so we can get more people submitting $20,000 a week in business. So
sure, absolutely.
Let's do it real easy. So let's take it from you walking into a house, and let's tell everyone how you submitted $20,000 last week.
Perfect. So what I do is I have the paper in front of me, printed out that they had filled out and mailed into the office, or if it was an instant internet lead, I have that printed out and I bring that with me. It's just a form that just shows, that they had inquired about wanting any kind of type of coverage, okay, for their family, or asking for help, okay? So I put this out in front of them and I say, okay, so first of all, before we even get started, this is the form that you filled out asking for the help, okay? So what is your goal that you want to accomplish today? In the event of just gaining information or actually putting the protection in place, what is your goal that you want to accomplish today? And why did you feel like this was important to you when you had inquired about this with filling this out? Some people will say, well, I just filled it out. I didn't really know. Okay, that's great. But something had to strike you to take the time to fill this out and mailed it back in, right? So there had to be something that caught your eye or caught your attention that you felt like that you needed to kind of get a little bit more information on this, which means AKA they needed help in some area that they don't feel like they have already.
So you dig a little bit deeper. If they say, I just wanted the information or I just wanted a quote, then you want to know why they wanted that. Why'd you want the information? Why'd you want a quote? So you ask another question then, right?
Yeah,
Perfect.
100%. Yep.
Okay.
And so, then they're going to answer that question. I sat with a gentleman. This was so powerful. He had filled the form out. I had asked that question, and he had said, well, I want my house covered. Now, normally, I would have said right then and there, okay, great. So let's look at that. So why do you feel like you want your house covered? What is it that you know, is your biggest concern with that? But in this case, I kind of got a little bit more creative, and I said, okay, all right, so you want your house covered. What is it that has impacted you that made you feel like that is something that you need to have happen in order for you to feel comfortable? What's the impact that would have on you? And he looked at me, and it immediately started the emotion quicker than digging deeper later on. And he kind of just like got diarrhea of the mouth and kind of just, he was like, well, my wife passed away 2 years ago. And I was a worker for the railroad, and I had coverage through my job. When I went to retire, they let me carry it over, but it was Agent Health at that time. And so I thought that even though it was more expensive, I thought she was covered, but I didn't realize that she had a graded policy. So it didn't go into effect for a good 6 months. We were 6 months in, but it didn't go effect for 2 years. Yeah. And I did not understand that. No one explained that to me. And he said, so when she passed away, it really hit me hard because I thought that I had something, I thought I had done my due diligence. I had protection in place. I didn't understand what I had. And here I was so upset because I had all this coverage for all this time when I worked, and then it wasn't the same when they let me carry it over. It's a big, big common misconception that people have. And he said, it really impacted me. So then I said, yeah, I can hear the passion in your voice when you're speaking about this. So tell me a little bit more about what you went through on how that really impacted you, that you feel like you don't want that to happen again. Right? So that, again, it was just pulling more information out with the emotion with it to get him to explain to me why that was so impactful to him. And he said, well, my whole family lives with me. My whole family lives with me. I have my grandchildren that live here. I was born and raised in this house, and I want to leave it to them. And I was terrified that I was going to go under when my wife, because she died of, she had cancer in the intestines. Okay. Yikes. And so it was a lot of like doctor bills.
So you're like in that appointment for 5 minutes and you're getting all this information, all this emotion. And I like
right away.
I like how you did that immediately. Okay.
Yeah. And so before I would have waited a little bit. I would have just kind of gathered basic information and then dove into the emotion. I did it right away. So basically how I changed that was I said, and now listen, not everybody's going to say it with passion, so you can't really play on that. But if you're sitting with someone that they're like, nope, you can tell that right away they're like, nope, I want my house covered. And I say, okay, I hear that you're saying that with a lot of passion. Like I can tell something really happened to you. Tell me why you feel so adamant about that. Like what has impacted you so much that you're saying it this much where you feel like you need to take the steps to make that happen? Because that's really important so we can prevent that from happening again. Right away, that pulls more emotion out quicker.
Awesome. Okay. And then from there, where do you go? So he gave you all this information. Then how do you follow?
Gave me all the information, and then I immediately asked him health. I said, so what prescriptions do you take right now? Right, that's a big one because a lot of times I find new agents wait too long to ask that question, and that ties in very quickly. Why? Because you've already pulled on emotion on why they're so passionate on getting the coverage. Now you want to bring up their own health. Why do you want to do that? Because if they're on the fence of not being healthy, well, then you got to play into that to make them understand, well, listen, you're not really healthy either. So statistics are not really working in your favor. So we really got to act on this. Or if they're healthy, same thing. The statistics are working in your favor that you're healthy right now. So we need to get you as much coverage as possible and get you approved for that and get that in place. So that way you don't have to worry about this later because you don't want this impact to, happen all over again.
I like it. It works both ways. If they're sick, they need it. And if they're healthy, they need it. They just need more of it.
That's right.
So it works both ways.
Yep. And tying that all in together, I felt like was a more creative way of doing that than what I was doing before. And then it also helps prevent the post dates as well, because a lot of people, I was post dating some, so you're not going to avoid that with everything. And I was pushing approval, and I still am, but this is really important, because if you really pull that emotion out from the very beginning of the appointment and carry that throughout the entire time, then you're going to say, listen, we know what can happen with not having the coverage effect now. So we need to make sure that we have this effect right now. So I don't even ask them, when do you want this to come out? I just say, okay, we need to put your banking information in. And if they say, well, do I need a payment today? And we said, yeah, you do, because we already know what that feels like to not have it, and you don't have anything now. So we need to make sure we have that right now. And if they kind of get, well, this and that, then here's the kicker. Most people that can't afford to pay for it now can't afford to pay for it later. The only time that I really post date anymore is if someone is tying it into Social Security.
Yeah.
Then, okay, right? Or if you feel like you kind of got to gauge the appointment.
Got it.
But it's a better way of avoiding those post dates.
And how many minutes are we into this appointment now? You've asked 3 questions, right? What are you looking to accomplish today? What has impacted you in the past to make you want to accomplish that goal, right? And then what does your health look like?
Yep.
So we're 3 questions in, and you've probably been there, 10 minutes so far? A guy giving you all this info.
Correct. And then I want to know, what do they already have in place now to help them achieve their goal? And what does that look like for them? And so what that means is, do they already have policies in place? Do they already have life insurance? Do they not? And what other things that they have in play that would act like insurance that they would, use in the event of a crisis, meaning any 401ks, IRAs, CDs, things like that. And I say it's important that I understand before I even give them a question to ask me, well, why do you need that information? They all tie in together. Every single thing needs to be doing what you need it to do. Because if you have, let's just say, $200,000 in a retirement fund, and you're like, well, I have enough that I could pay off the house already. Well, that's great, but do you want to use that for that? And if the answer is no, because then you'd be living on ramen noodles if you do that, and you'd lose the house anyway, because then you don't have any money to live on, then that's great that you can say that, but then that's not the answer. We still need to get something in place to work together with that to make sure you're properly protected.
Is this the appointment you had the other day? You did like 8,700 in there?
Yep.
Right? And you did an annuity, so he had some retirement money as well.
Yep.
Okay. And it all stemmed from these 4 questions now. So, all right, so let's continue. So you asked, what do you have in place, and then how do we get to the point where you wrote $8,700 in one house?
Right. So he had an old 401k, and it was he didn't know from his old employer, he didn't know that he should have moved the money. And so I explained to him, I always use my dad as an example, because he used to work for Bethlehem Steel, and when they went bankrupt, he didn't know that he needed to move that retirement over into something else, and when they went bankrupt, he literally lost it all. So not that would happen with every employer, it's a kind of hard argument to make that for federal or state, but still, it still needs to be your money, okay? And we need to make sure it's doing what it needs to be doing, all right? So that would be a whole nother thing that I can get into, but we'll have to do that at a different time. So we made sure that money was doing what that needed to be doing. Now, with that being said, do you want to use this money to give the relief of paying off the house? And if the answer is no, you need that money to live on, or another objective with that, then we need to make sure you have enough with something else. So the answer was no. He was like, no, I don't want that. So then we did an IULE for him to supplement with it, all right? And that was a good portion of the house, all right? But it wasn't the whole thing. And then he also wanted whole life coverage because he had his mom that was living there as well, and that would be a hardship on him in the event something happened to her too, because he was her primary caregiver.
Wow.
Right? So that was it, all tied in together.
So how many policies was that total?
I believe it was 4.
So he got an IULE, the mom got covered.
And then he got a whole life on his brother, because his brother was living next door. So he had called his brother while we were there, and then came over. And then his son-in-law was a big contributor to the house, was living in the house as well. So we wrote a policy on him.
And then
too.
how much was the annuity?
I want to say it was like 100 and some. Maybe it was something like that.
So your in-home really consists of 4 questions, right?
Yeah.
What are you looking to accomplish today with this policy? What was your goal? What has impacted you in your life to make you want to accomplish this? What made you even think about this? What does your health look like? What do you currently have in place that would help you accomplish those goals? And what do you have that acts like life insurance that would help you? 4 questions, right?
4 questions.
So if everyone on this call, if you can remember those 4 things.
Yeah, write them down.
I think it's powerful.
Write them down.
And I think it's very simple too.
Keep it very simple. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing that I find when I'm with the people on my team. Sometimes they don't ask the questions in the right order, and you'll start already pitching a product before they already know the health. You can't do that, all right? You really can't do that, because you have to know someone's health, because if they're not healthy enough, if they're insulin dependent and they can't get an IULE, or if they can't get CBO 100, then you have to do equity protection at that point. Okay, so you have to understand when to ask the certain questions to be able to have the in-home run smoothly.
That's a great question. We have so many people when they start, and I think that was the biggest thing that I had to overcome is when, and let's go over that. How do you handle this just so everyone knows how to do it? You go into, let's say we have a mortgage protection, $250,000 house. They're 70 years old. They had cancer 5 years ago, and they want to cover $250,000 house. How do you pivot? What do you say to them to pivot to equity protection? How do you handle that?
So I usually say to them that if they're healthy, right? I usually say, listen, we all don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We can't put a form into God and say, hey, this is when you're going to take us. But let's take your health as a gauge, okay? Because usually that's a pretty good indicator statistically on what would happen to you, okay, by how healthy you are, all right? So I usually tell people that are pretty healthy, I usually say to them, okay, in the event of something happening to you, statistics are not in your favor that you're going to die tomorrow. So that's a good thing, right? But while your mortgage is at its highest, your statistics of something happened to you are low. So as you're paying your mortgage down, every single year you get older. So statistically, the odds are working against you now.
Yep.
So go meet in the middle or less, okay? Because if and when something is going to happen, it's probably going to be then, and it would probably pay the house off anyway. Okay. Now again, if something doesn't work, and if that plan doesn't work out right, and something happens to you tomorrow, it's still not a bad deal because the odds are small. But if it is, you would be able to take that lump sum of cash or your family, smack it on the house, refinance it, and you would be able to sustain the loan, but a much smaller amount, or it would give you plenty of time to sell the house. Okay, so you can keep all the equity that you've created, so the bank doesn't come and take it.
Is that how you would pivot to a final expense, or you're talking about to a smaller term?
Or just a smaller amount, or like let's say you're sitting with someone that's older and the rates are through the roof. I would kind of pivot that way, or let someone says, yeah, well, I am insulin dependent. Okay, well then, listen, we all want a Rolls Royce, but we need a car right now to get us from point A to point B. So what we're going to do is get you in the best thing that we can to help protect you. It may not be, what you want when you walked on the lot, but it's still better than not having anything at all and you're not walking. Okay, so we really got to make sure that we put something in place to buy you time to protect your mortgage and all the equity that you've created throughout the years, because, even 12 a year, 2 years, 3 years is better than 0.
Do you specifically talk about that when you show a whole life? Do you say this covers a year of payments, 2 years of payments? So you bring that up and show them. Do you give
always?
How many options do you give on that?
I always give the same. So let's say someone, all right, let's just even take final expense, for example. Let's say someone says to me, Kristin, I want to be cremated. Well, what most agents do that I find that always works against them is they'll show 8,000, 10,000 and below.
That is correct.
Right?
Yep.
I never do that. Always show 40, always show 35, always show 30, always show 25 and 20. Why? Because everybody has a different idea in their mind what they think insurance costs. Okay, it's the same thing like back to cars. Like if I have an idea in my head what a BMW cost. I really don't know, but I have that in my head. But if I walk on a lot and I think I can only afford a Jeep, and then the salesman showed me the BMW anyway, and it wasn't that much of a difference, well, then I might say, well, maybe I'll consider that because I didn't realize what it actually cost, or, hey, compared to this, I really can get this, and I would prefer to have this. So when you lay options out with the insurance, you never know what people are going to, pick, and your different definition to what expensive is very different to what someone else's definition is. So don't assume that a $400 payment is expensive. They may not think it's expensive.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Another thing you do different than most people, I know a lot of, and I used to do this too until I saw you do it. I used to always give 3 options. I give like 6 now. I give it very high and I'll come down very low. What was have you always done it that way?
I always done it that way. And I tell them, when I show them these options, and I think it does a couple things when you do that. Number one, they know you're not trying to sell them at the highest amounts, okay? Because you're giving them all options. The other thing I say is, there is not a wrong answer that is on this paper. I do not care which one you choose that is on this paper, okay? The wrong answer is not picking any, because you don't have anything in place. So you need to pick at least one of these. I don't care which one it is, but something is better than 0. So paint the picture. Let's say, okay, maybe you wanted $100,000 and you're insulin dependent, so now we can only do equity protection. Well, $25,000 check is sure as heck better than 0, knowing that's coming in the mail. Would you agree?
I love it.
And when you paint that picture, they're nodding their head, because the truth is yeah, it is.
So there you go, everyone. 4 questions on an in-home, and it really gets as simple as that. And you prove every single week that it does work. We only have a couple minutes left. I want to talk about, because you and I talked the other day, and you're building a team. And I think when you sell the way you do, I think it's easier to build because you're very confident when you speak to people. And I think people will naturally want to follow you because the amount of business that you're writing, they want to learn how to do it. The other difference, too, that we talked about is your staff. How big of a difference has it made you bringing in staff?
So it makes all the difference in the world. My life would be a train wreck if I didn't have Joey. Joey is by far, I literally owe everything to her. Okay?
What are her responsibilities? What is she doing for you?
She is my personal assistant. And what I mean my personal assistant, I mean that with everything, including sometimes taking my kids to practice.
You know, Sean Mike brought that up years ago, and he talked about that. Having a personal assistant that did even beyond that. So
she is amazing. She keeps me organized. She calls all of my policies to remind them if there is a post date. She calls them to make sure they receive policies, get them back on my calendar if I need to go back out and go over the policies, because I do go anything over $100. I'm going back in the home, taking 5 minutes to explaining what the policy is. Unless someone under that really, really wants me to do that, no problem. But Joey calls all of them. Joey helps me with all of my annuity stuff as well, making sure transfers get complete, calling the client. I also say that to my clients when I'm in there, that she is my go-to person. So if you have anything and you can't get a hold of me by chance, Joey makes everything run smoothly on the back end. She is why we are where we are. She also, like with Emily, is the person who does all of our
So that's your most recent staff, Emily.
Okay. Emily is my contracting person, and she also does all of our recruiting, and she does all of our Facebook stuff as well.
So you have two.
And her husband does all the Facebook stuff.
There you go.
With her.
I mean, those are the things we need. We all need an assistant. We need someone that does our contracting. We need a recruiter. We need a social media person. It's really those 4 people. You basically have 3 people that are handling those 4 things, and that's typically the way that you would do it, and that makes sense.
Correct.
Do you wish you would have had your assistant earlier? Do you wish you would have done this a year ago? Would it change your life then?
I did. I do feel like that. It's the same thing with having a BPL, right? Like, we all get nervous to commit to a mailing program because we're like, oh my God, these leads are expensive. You know what I mean? But when you do, and then you go out and they're easier, right? Or if you commit to spending $1,000 a week on leads and you see that the success that you get is tenfold from them. It's the same thing with staff. Like, you don't realize how much they help keep your persistency up, how many things that I was letting fall off the books that maybe I wouldn't have caught that she does. Maybe somebody has a return draft and we don't realize that they changed their banking and they forgot to tell us. So instead of that policy falling off the books and then being irresponsible and them not having any coverage, we make sure that coverage stays in place. Just things like that make a huge, huge difference. Emily, once she gets someone and talks to the recruiting agents that want to come on board, she immediately calls Joey, gets them on my calendar so that way I can speak to them. Just a 15-minute phone call so that way they're upfront with, to hear me. And she will consistently work with Joey to get them on my schedule. And then Joey will even send me reminders. Hey, you do know you have a phone call today. So
that's the way I do it too.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I will forget.
Because you're busy.
I'm constantly talking to people in between appointments all day long when I'm out running appointments. I'm talking to new agents. I'm talking to new recruits. And having a conversation every single day with my staff. I couldn't operate without the staff I have.
No way.
Not even a little bit.
I mean, Emily, she's doing an amazing job. The amount of people that we're bringing in consistently is all because of her. She's outstanding. And the Facebook stuff as well.
And who trained her?
Well, she came up with Anna Marie and Sadna. She'll go on, they have calls that she'll go on, and, you know, she's just constantly like on her own, like up here, you know, like reaching out to them. And Joey had done some of that previously, so she works with Joey as well.
We're almost out of time. What's your 90-day goal? That's what I'm big at looking at right now. We got, you know, right before conference. Where do you want to be in the next 90 days?
So I'd like to hit $1 million. That was my biggest goal for the year, but I'm actually okay, honestly, if I don't hit that. And the only reason being is because my focus right now is getting all of my agents that are starting and that are doing so well, like Will and Jason, Ashley, Adam. I want to get all of them producing consistently at a high level. So that's my biggest focus right now, besides me producing.
Team number. What do you want to issue?
I'd like to be at
by January.
I'd like to be at like 300,000-400,000, and I think they easily can do it for
sure.
sure.
Senior vice president.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's all of our time for today, Kristin. I appreciate it. I hope everyone got something out of it. She broke it down and made it very simple how you can go